Hi and welcome back to the next video. This is video 31 of the Advanced Block project, and this time we are refactoring our findAll users and our findByUsername endpoints. Both endpoints are paginated, so they are not just returning the users, but they are returning a pagination object which contains the users, the page, the size of the page, and so on. The structure of the video is as always: first we have a look at our video outcome, then we will write a user story or read the user story for this outcome, and at the end we implement the user story and close it. Let's have a quick look what we are doing in this video here. So you can see we simplified the findAll and findAllByUsername endpoints, and we renamed it to search by username, and then we specify the username as parameter. And you can also see that in our user service we simplified the paginate and paginate filter by username functions, and we are using here heavily the paginate from nestjs-typeorm-paginate package, which simplifies it for us. And we also reflected the changes in our API backend to our front end. So to our user service, we are going against the new endpoint, and we also refactored something in our component. Then we have here, like all our Postman requests, where you can see that everything is working fine. And you can also search all by username. And now the API changed to API users search by username Thomas. So this is like the parameter. And then you get all or one, because I limited the page to one. And we also changed everything here in our front end, so you can now just simple search here, you can paginate, you can do whatever you want to do. So let's start by reading our story. So here we are in video 31. Refactor user endpoints to find all and search by username. So the story is, as a developer, I want the API refactored so that one endpoint is returning all users paginated, and the second you can search by username, and this is also paginated. So let's just add this. And then we have our acceptance criteria. That is, we want to have a new endpoint to search by username. We want to refactor the user service in nest.js. We want to add our changes that we made to the API also in our front-end block service, so that our front-end is still working. And we want to update our Postman collection so that all the requests to our API there are still valid. So now we can move this card to doing and switch to our code. So you can see here, we are actually on branch develop. We are clean, so we have nothing changed here. So now we can say git-flow feature start, and then we name this branch video 31. This will create a new feature branch for us based on the branch develop, and is now called feature video 31. And now we are on our branch here, you can see it. And so at first we can probably cd into our backend, so into our nest.js API, and just run it. And this will connect it also to the database. And then we can go into our Postman and look what we want to change. So you can see it here. At the moment, for the user, we have here some endpoints, and there are one endpoint that I don't like at the moment, that I don't like at all. This is the index here, where you either, if you specify username, then you paginate or filter by username all the users in the database and return the user's paginated object. Or if you don't specify a username, then you're just querying all the users. So I would like to split this up, as in the story said, into two endpoints, which makes it much more simpler to understand and make it more descriptible. So if we have a look here, we can see we have here our YouTube blog. We can get all users, and then we are getting all the users here. And we can also make it, I think it's username, page limit, and then we get all usernames or all users by this username that's containing this thing that I gave it here, so FEL. And this is because you can see it here, when it checks the username is not null, so we are going to the else case and paginate filter by username. And then it checks with like if it contains somewhere in the username field this username that we gave it. So, and I want also to refactor this here because this is pretty much not nice. Let's say it like this. So the first thing that we want to do is we want now to change here our controller. So let's uncomment it. And let's say we want to have one get endpoint as before, where we get all the users paginated. We don't want to search here by username, just all the users paginated, and that's all. So what we want to do here is we want to have probably query parameters. And we can also name it like findAll. And then we give it 2 query parameters as before. So page and limit, and if they are not specified, they will have the values 1 and 10. If they are specified, then we take the values that we are having here. So here it would then, if we say limit 100 or 99, it would take 99. If you don't specify it, it would take 10. Then we can, or we should check for a limit. And if limit, so how many items you want to have on one page, is larger than 100, like you see it here, then we should set it to 100. If not, it should be limit. So we say if limit is bigger than 100, then we go with 100. If it is smaller, then we take the specified query parameter, the value from it. So then we can just say we want to return this, our user service, and there we have our paginate function that we are calling, and we can just copy and paste this here because this is still correct. And you can see here, what are we giving it? We are giving it the page, how many items we want, and the base route. So because when we are returning, here you can see we are getting here the base route. So now we could click on each of these links here. If there would be a page 2, for example, and go to the next page. And the second thing that we want is we want to have another get endpoint where we make findAll by username. And of course we have to make it here, like we can specify the type that we want to return. So what we want to return here is an observable from type pagination and the type user, so that we have later pagination object with user. And the same thing goes here. We have here also an observable for pagination and for user. And then here with findAll by username, we want to have some parameters. So we want to have like the same that we are having here, also query parameters that are, if they are specified, take the values. And if not, then we set the basic values 1 and 10. But we want to have also like a parameter for the username. This is the username, and we're just calling it username, and this is from type string. And here we have to specify to which route we want to listen. And this is not like here, the get is just here for our users, so for our controller, so this is listening for the users. And here we want to listen to search by username. And then here we specify the parameter, the username parameter, where we are getting the value here. And then we can return our user service dot, let's say, how do we want to name it? Paginate filter by username. Let's go with the same name. And how should it look? So we want to have our pagination object like before. And our user object or our username like before. And then we can see here, we have here now the base route API /users, but this is not correct anymore because we are now for /users /search by username. And then we have to specify here the username. So we go with the ticks here. And then we can just insert our value. So we go with $, and then these brackets, and we say this here is the username, and then this is our base route here. So now we have to fix some stuff here. So let's first uncomment this. So you can see here in the paginate, we are doing from paginate, and this is actually coming from the nestjs-typeorm-paginate package. Let's see if we can go into it. At the moment not. I don't know why. Here, so this is paginating the repository with the pagination object options and the search option. So pagination objects options contain a limit, the number of the page, and the base route. And the search options are defined conditions. So here we can specify some stuff. So I can show it to you now. So we have here the pagination, and at the moment we are deleting from every. So here with that we are querying for the pagination object, so by page and by size or by limit. And then the user's pageable that we get in return, we remove from every item that there is the password property, but actually we can shorten this here. So we can remove this because in a video we made some changes to our model, to our user entity, where we said that the password property here is only select false, and this means that if you want to have it, you have to specify the password property especially. And if you don't specify it, then you're not getting it returned. So we can save it here, and we can shorten this up. And then we want to have our second function, which is paginate filter by username. And this is taking the same stuff as before. And we are returning also the observable pagination user. And then we want to return also from, because this pagination stuff is not returning an observable. So we want to make it an observable. So we say from our user repository. And then we want to have our pagination options into it. And also we want to make some custom query. And here we can go with the stuff like from here. So we want to make a simple where case. And this is where the username is and then we have here the percentage, which means if I type in here an O, then it would search for anything, O, anything. So either if this is starting with the O, or the O is in the middle of the username, or at the end, this is still finding it. So we can just use this here, and we don't need all this other stuff here because the select before was so that we don't get in return the password. But since we changed the model, we don't even need it anymore. The skip, take, order, anything is handled by the pagination. And here, of course, we have to add the pagination or the paginate. And yeah, then go against the user repository with the options and where the username is like what we specify here. And then we just have to close it correctly. And then we can delete all this garbage here. So let's save it and see if our errors here are going away. You can see it's now fine. Now we can check if our endpoints are still reachable. So we are here trying to get all the users. Now you see we are getting all the users in return with items. So we have here our object, then our items array with all the users. You can see we have metadata, total items, item count, items per page, total pages, current page. We have links to the first page. We have links to the next page and the last page. So I could go for a click here. Then you see these are all the stuff that I need. I clicked send and then I'm on page 2. And so now we want to try to make it against to search or filter by a username. So you remember we are now here for search by username, let's say Thomas. When you see all the items that are having Thomas in the username are getting returned, and you could also paginate them, but it says total items 2, item count 2, items per page 10, total pages 1, current page 1, and then we are just having the first page. We don't have a previous page because we are on the first. We don't have a next page because we only have one page, and we have the last page, which is also here, this page. So this seems to work. And we could also say, how is it called? Page and limit. So we could say page is 1 and limit is also 1. Then we get it limited to 1, the current page. And we could go to the next page to see the second result here. And you can also see here we are just getting ID, name, username, email, role, and profile image back and not the password property. So we can delete this. And then we see here, we have here all our requests that I added over the time into our Postman. So we have here get all users, add new user, get single user by ID, delete one, update one, login, update user, a role of user, upload profile picture, download profile picture. And then we can save this here also to our collection, to the user collection. And then we name it search all by username. And we save it. And what we can now also do is we want to export our collection. Where is it? Export. And we save it here into our advanced block to our Postman requests. And we override the file that is there. And now we have to, here, we have made some changes to our backend, but our front end is still querying against the old, or trying to query the old requests. So we have to change this also. So if I go into my front-end folder and say ng-serve, this will start my Angular front-end. And then we can go here and close this here. 1 second. And we can see, where are we? In our front end, we have our source, we have our services, we have our user service. And this here is the pagination by name or paginate by name, which is obviously wrong because now the username is not anymore a parameter, request param, but it's for the URL. So it's not a query parameter, but a request parameter. So we have to change this here. So you can see now if we go to localhost 4200, we can go to the users, and this will still work because the first endpoint to find all users that we now made was already like this implemented in the last version, so there are no changes. But if I try now to search, I'm always getting an error here. I'm not getting returned anything because it's not implemented at this. So what we have to do here is we have to change the route. So you can see it here, we want to have users search by username. So this is where we want to go. API / users search by username. And we are also going with the backticks so that we can add the username here. And we can have let the params here because we need them for limit and size, and I remove the parameter username from it. So now we're having it here. And this should be all in this file, I think, that we need. So API users search by username. And then let's look where it is implemented. So it's also here in our users component. And here we have to also change some stuff up or change something. So let's go into our users component. And then let's look what we are doing here. So at first we need our data source where we make the findAll. And then you can see here, first it was implemented like paginate by name for page 0, but there is like the difference is in our nestjs backend, we are always going for page 1 as the first page and not page 0 as the first page. So there should always be no result. So we have to change this. So what we can do, because we are making multiple requests against our user service findAll, we can, for example, make our own findAll here. We can just copy this here, and here we go against the, you see, first page and then limit by 10. This should be all right. And of course we can make it a little bit more sophisticated, so we can say we want to go against the page number and the size number, and then we just insert them here so that we can reuse this function. And then we can remove this here completely, and then we say here an ng on init. So if we visit this component, we want to make findAll and want to go for the first page with 10 entries. Then we have our on pagination change, and there we have our page event. And this is the difference, because Angular is the Angular how's it called, paginator is always going for the first page as page 0 and not page 1. So we always have to increase the page from Angular material by 1 so that we match our nestjs backend. So then we want to say if this filter value is either null, so where we filter by username, or the filter value is like empty, then we want to findAll by page and size, also this here. So this on paginate change is triggering if I'm hitting here the buttons from the Angular material paginator. Then it's triggering this function here. And if I'm having like specified a filter value, so the filter value is the username that I specify here, then if it has a value, I'm going to the else case. I'm going against the user service paginate by username with page first now, size, the filter value, and then I'm setting the data source for my table to the user data that I'm getting in return from my service. Then we can go against the find by name. This is if I am just typing in here and I'm not paginating here. There I want to also check if there is a value, because what often happens, so first this also has to be 1. If I paginate by name, and now you see it here, I'm getting this. But if I'm removing the letters, then it's trying, and the last one, you see it here, to query against like an empty string. And then username, and then you see it's not implemented because this cannot happen. So we want to also check here against if the username that we give him is null, or username. And we could also do it with username.length. Whatever. So there are multiple ways how you can implement this. So we say if the username that is here is null, then we want to find all and not search by username, and give him the first page and the first 10 elements. But if there is a username specified, we want to go against the paginate by username and go against the first page, the first 10 results with the username, and then we set the data source. So let's save this and let's try if everything works here correctly. We can also let the console open to see if there are any errors. So first you see max objects or items 12. We are here on page 1 with 1 to 10. We can go to the next page, works perfectly fine. We can query for THO. We are getting 2 results. Actually, we could go, if I delete it, now we get again all the users, so there's no error anymore. If I'm just querying for an O, I'm getting all usernames that are having like an O, either in the middle or at the end. So now I was clicking, but here you can see it, Thomas, 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 Thomas. And yeah, 5 for 5. If we go for an A, so this is an error from the profile image. That's another thing that we want to make in a different video. So we are just going for an A. You see we have like 9 results, so I could say we want to have 5. And then I could go to the second page and it's still working. So now we have all the stuff working again. So we can now commit our changes and check against our story. So we can now stop it here, everything. Those are just errors because of the profile image, because sometimes I didn't upload a profile image, just a link, and it's not working. But this shouldn't bother us here. So now we say git add upper A, so we want to add everything that we did here, and then we add a commit message, and we say video 31, and then our message is refactored user controller find all and find by username. Also refactored service in backend and frontend, and fixed users.component in Angular in ng. So now we can git push it. Of course, we have to set our upstream branch. And then we can merge it back, or let's first check against our story. So here we have our story, so we have our new endpoint search by username. Is this markdown? Let's see. No. Okay, let's write done like before. We refactored our user service in the backend. We have added our changes to the front-end user service or block service. Of course, this is not block, but user service. And we add changes to our users.component in Angular. This is also done. And we have updated our Postman collection also. So we can now move this to done, and then we can merge it back into our branch develop. So we say git-flow feature finish, and this will now merge our feature branch back into our develop branch, and then I can push it to my remote repository.